be keeping a lot of really good women single. And I've been seeing a lot of believers or Christians have this conversation, especially women, around not wanting to settle and wanting a certain lifestyle because they've either gained a lifestyle or they have attained certain things in life. And I just want to first say this, that I don't think the root of it is bad. I think that if you are a woman, it's going to be natural for you to be like, oh, I want somebody equal. I want somebody who's done or has accomplished the same things as me. But I do want to just kind of shed light on the differences between men and women and how God has kind of structured things, and why I think that a lot of women who idolize lifestyle are going to just hit walls when it, and I hate the hit a wall conversation. So it's not that, but it's kind of going to be, they're going to have a very hard time dating because of the mindset behind this needing a lifestyle and needing a certain amount of money. So I'll just kind of share my story real quick. When I was single, I made really good money. I was in the military for 14 years and I was an officer. And then when I left the military, a whole shift in my income changed. So I had a certain lifestyle, certain, amount of money coming in. And then I got out and things changed and shifted for me. And I had to kind of rebuild and build that back up for myself. However, when I met my husband, my number one goal was, who is this man and is this a man of God? Because this is what I do know. The Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and gains favor from the Lord. One thing I've learned about men, and I'm going to put my husband and our story aside for a second, is men go after the lifestyle that gets them what they want. Men are very reward oriented, right? If I do this, I can get this. Most men who desire women are only going to do what they need to do to get women. Men are not like women when it comes to, oh, I saw so-and-so go on vacation, so I need to try that. Or, now we want to go to Martha's Vineyard. And like, social media has opened women's eyes to a whole different world, different lifestyles, different financial brackets. And we're like, oh, I want to experience that too. I want a slice of that pie. I want to dip my toe over there. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But what has happened is there has been a shift in what used to be okay and normal for the average person is now, because we can see over the fence and we can see certain people living a certain way. Now women are going after that, which again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a high achiever and have certain things. But men are not built the same way that we are, right? Like women, we love shiny objects. That's why rings need to be a certain size and they need to look a certain way because of this. I don't know where this comes from, but this notion of, and I'm not saying this in a nasty way. It can be both sides. It can be a negative tone to it, to where it's like, oh, look at me and look at what I have, or I just want to experience this because I want all that God has for me, so to speak, right? So I think there's two sides of the coin. And we see a lot of the, ooh, look at me. That's kind of, I don't know why we're like that, but that's in women's natural nature, not their God nature, not when they give their lives up to God, but in nature, right? That's why it says love does not boast, because we are not supposed to be boastful, but we see a lot of the boasting, right? But anyways, a man is going to obtain a lifestyle that he needs in order to get the woman or man that he wants. I mean, excuse me, not man. Scratch that. He's going to get the lifestyle that he can to get the woman that he wants, or access to women. And with the barrier to entry being so low, meaning it doesn't take much for a man to get access to women, whether physically or, digitally. And now with corn and OF and all of these things, I have to say the code names online, because they're so readily available on our phones, it is easy for men to access beautiful women by a touch of a button. They can pay $9.99 and see a plethora of women of all different races, creeds, sizes, skin tones, hair textures, whatever. Like, it is a smorgasbord of women readily at their fingertips, where they don't even need to go out in the world and work for a woman, right? It's the barrier to entry is very low. Whereas back in the day, in order for a man to have a family, he had to have resources. In order for a man to, have a wife, he had to have something, right, to present to her father to say, hey, you've taken care of her, now it's my turn, this is what I have. Men don't really need that anymore. And we can talk about the uptick in fatherless homes, and we can go down the rabbit hole of the cause and effect, slavery, all of the things. And not to dismiss those things, but I just want to get us to understand where we are now, that men think very differently. And because they don't need to chase a certain lifestyle to have access to women, it is easy for men to just be like, hey, I can make this, I'm living this, and cool. And a lot of women will say, well, I don't want that type of man. And I understand that. However, when a man gets a wife, especially a man of God, I'll just speak to that. Like I was talking about men in general, even worldly men, I'll talk about a man of God. Men of God want to provide because it's in their nature to provide, right? God gave Adam an assignment. Before he gave him Eve, Adam had a job, Adam had a mission, Adam had a purpose, okay? Most of the men in the Bible, if you notice, they all had purposes prior to getting the women that God has blessed them with. So the key to a man elevating most of the time and elevating to his purpose to include status, wealth, and all of that. And everybody isn't called to that. I want to say that. Not to say you shouldn't, if that's what you want to do, but everybody's not called to that. Look at Joseph. Joseph lived in Nazareth, with Mary. They had to go to Egypt. He was moving them all around. And we don't even know how Joseph's story ends. He just kind of disappears out of the book. But his assignment was pivotal to our salvation. Without Joseph, Mary and Jesus were in danger. Okay, like Molly, then you in danger, girl. Jesus and Mary were in danger because Jesus was at a point in his life, in his human infancy, that he couldn't defend himself. And Mary at the time could not either. She was vulnerable. So if it wasn't for Joseph understanding his assignment with Mary and Jesus, we wouldn't have had our salvation. We wouldn't have been able to get access to the salvation that we had, right? And I think that we kind of miss that in the kingdom is we start thinking and talking and acting like the world, where we prioritize lifestyle and finances over purpose, over God-given vision. And again, I'm not saying be broke in a hole, but I'm going to be honest. You do want to marry somebody that you can be broke with. And here's why. You don't know what God is going to have for that man. You don't know what God has for you. There are going to be seasons of ups and downs. That's just like a man saying, well, I want a fully healthy wife. That is beautiful. That is great. You should desire that. However, God forbid that woman gets sick. God forbid that woman is extra vulnerable when she's pregnant. We don't know what the next day is going to hold. And I wish prosperity, love, and light for everyone. However, life is always going to always life. We are not exempt from the things of this world. We are not exempt from suffering. We are not exempt from battles, trials, tribulations. You don't know what God is going to have you on. So a man can be up in one season. You have no clue what's going to be on the other side. Now I'm going to reiterate my story to this conversation. When I met my husband, he made a certain amount. And to me, I did not care because I was good. I was comfortable. I did not necessarily need somebody to come in and take over what I'd already been doing. My number one goal was I want a man with a heart for God. Not a perfect man, not a man doing da 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 da. And even my husband was like, well, I don't know if we should get married because I feel like I need to have this and this and this. And no tea, no shade. If I would have drank that Kool-Aid, we wouldn't be married because he had such a high financial expectation in his mind. And a lot of men do, right? A lot of men feel like, well, I can't get married because I need to have this, 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 and this. And I love that they do have that ambition, but it's stopping a lot of people being connected in the kingdom. And really, he goes up when he finds you. That key to unlock those levels, the Bible says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and gains favor from the Lord. That favor spills on to you because you guys are one and he is your husband. And a lot of women don't understand that in order for that man to unlock that next level, to have that level of desire, ambition, men have to work for more than themselves. And when they're single, it's just them. When they're married, that's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother stage to unlock, right? There's a whole nother set of favor. You are that key. So a lot of women are holding themselves hostage in this single season because they're idolizing lifestyle and finances, when really, if he has you, he's gonna unlock it. And if you want him to have that before, to be honest, what does he need you for? Just like I do want women to stop being so scared of the word need. We look at the word need as weakness. We look at the word need as like a curse word. Now, should you need somebody to breathe and to survive? No, right? That's what Jesus is for. Okay, that's what the Lord is for. That is what being a fully functioning human being, taking care of yourself, that is what God has given you and given us in this day and age. You know, we are able to financially support ourselves. So I'm not talking about need and that desire. But if a man already has everything that he needs to have you, why does he need you? Does that make sense? Like, I don't think women understand sometimes how men's brains operate. And that's why it's so important to understand men. Understand them through their nature, but then understand godly men, because those are two different types of men. A man who's just in his nature is going to be in his ego. He's going to be his own God. He is going to serve himself and do everything just for him, right? Him. A man of God is going to look at his circumstances as a married man and say, okay, how do I better my family? What do I need to do for my family? A lot of single men are not going to have that desire because there's nothing to do it for. Like, it's just them, as they should. Just like when a woman is single, it's just her, right? And yes, you want to better your community. Yes, you may want to chip in with your family, but you are not obligated as a single person to take care of anybody but your children if you have children, right? You are only obligated to take care of what's in your sphere. And when you're single, ain't nothing there. But when you get married, there is another level of ambition that unlocks. There's another level of hustle that unlocks in a man. And I'm not telling y'all to marry potential, because you should see a man's work ethic prior to getting married. You should see this man's discipline before getting married. Not a perfect man, but there are signs that this man is qualified to lead a household and to lead. But then they still got to figure that out. Our husbands have never been husbands before most of the time, right? Unless you're marrying somebody who's been married before, a man has never been married before. If you and your husband, this is your first time having a child together, this is the first time this man is taking care of a child. So there's going to be a lot of trial and error. There's going to be a lot of work. There's going to be a lot of give and take. There's going to be a lot of mistakes and things, and you got to work together. And I think that that's the biggest misconception in the Christian faith, is that once, if he's my husband, if he's the one that God has for me, if it's my kingdom marriage, then it's just going to fall into place. And you still got to go through stuff. There's still going to be trials, tribulations, things that you have to overcome in order to sustain God's walk. Like, we're not exempt from life, y'all. And I think that that's a huge misconception, is a lot of Christian women believe like, well, my God wouldn't give me a man that didn't make 6 figures, or my God wouldn't do. No tea, no shade. Who are you? Who are we to belittle his children, belittle his sons to a dollar amount? Because all of this money is God's. And in the grand scheme of things, we can't take it with us. And again, I'm not preaching no broke prosperity and none of that type stuff, or being broke is, I'm not saying that. But you have to understand, just like it is demeaning for a man to belittle a woman just from her body and childbearing, the same goes for when a woman belittles God's sons to a paycheck. He's worth so much more than what he makes. He's worth so much more than a dollar amount and a career and a lifestyle. And again, y'all don't know what God gonna have for y'all. You don't know what's gonna happen where that lifestyle may not be So I'm not saying don't strive for it. I'm not saying that's between you and the Lord. I'm not telling you to be broke and that's some sort of badge of honor either. What I want us to just rethink and have a heart check about is, are we idolizing lifestyle and finances? Are we idolizing money? And we can do that, and I have to check my heart all the time because I am a woman who loves nice things. Okay. I love Louis and all of this. I love all of that stuff. Cartier. I love all of the luxury. Okay. I love me a good luxury vacation. I love a good first class seat. I understand that. I have to constantly check my heart. Like, okay, are you doing this solely for money? Are you doing this because God has called you? Are you doing this? Da 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 da. Like, I constantly have to check my heart. Because the Bible says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all of these things will be added on to you. One thing I do know, two things for sure, is I didn't get married for a lifestyle and I didn't get married for finances. And to be honest, I do believe we are very blessed in that area because our hearts were in the right place. And again, not idolizing myself, not putting myself on a pedestal. I'm just sharing my story because this is the kind of conversations we don't have. And I really want this channel to be a safe place for women to just rethink and reshape and deconstruct a lot of the toxic programming that the enemy has slipped in through culture, through social media. Yes, a woman is beautiful and she can have this lifestyle but beauty is fleeting. You go from being young and beautiful to old real quick. You go from being young and beautiful to middle-aged real quick. Okay, I'm about to be 37. Okay, so I just want us to have a heart check. My ladies, to really, when you are getting to know a man, really figure out, okay, am giving him a chance because of a lifestyle and his money and his cars and stuff? Or am I really giving him a chance because I can see his heart for God? Because in my personal opinion and what I've been through, believe me, God will take care of all of that. Now you have to have there's other stuff that goes along with that. I'm not telling y'all to be with nobody that ain't got no work ethic, that ain't, and no man is perfect. Okay, so you gotta have discernment, you gotta pray, you gotta ask for confirmation. But what I am saying is, I get that everybody wants that rich Christian fantasy, but life is what you make it. And sometimes stewarding what we have, being content, unlocks a level of elevation, unlocks a level of grace and favor. But that should not be the only thing that we're chasing after. Our hearts need to be right. Our marriages need to glorify the kingdom of heaven. Our marriages should be a testament that God is real, okay? Because if we are just getting married or we're dating these men just for our own sake, then that's a little backwards, in my personal opinion, okay? So have a heart check. Not telling you to be with nobody broke or that don't got nothing that's gonna, make you. I ain't saying that. But ask yourself, am I idolizing money and lifestyle? Because in my personal opinion, I got this revelation. I do believe a lot of our good Christian sisters are going to remain single because they are idolizing money and lifestyle. Okay? When again, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and gains favor from the Lord. All right. I love you guys. I hope you guys understood this message, my heart behind it. If you guys got any questions, comments, concerns, or you don't agree or disagree, whatever, put it in the comments. I would love to know what topics you guys want to talk on next. I have some things in the works. I have things I'm thinking about. So any kind of video ideas you guys want to talk about, do this. But I love just doing these one-off live streams because it just helps me when I have a revelation versus sitting down, filming a video, editing it, and all of those things are coming. We're going to stay tuned every Wednesday. But sometimes I feel like I just want to have a conversation with you guys so you guys can hear my heart. You guys can hear just everything that's... All right. I love you guys. I hope you guys have a beautiful and blessed one. Bye. Thumbnail.